The following is a paid program. It expresses only the opinion of its producers and participants.
You're watching CSTV, the voice of American business. This is American Spotlight. American Spotlight is a consortium of television programs saluting the business of American business. American Spotlight showcases the inner workings of successful and diligent American enterprise and its effect on the quality of American life. This program highlights those people who make American business what it is today. From the business centers of the USA, this is American Spotlight.
It is estimated that every day 2,000 people move to the state of California. And of that total, a majority will find their way to Southern California. How will they all fit? Where will they all live? It's a puzzle that has state lawmakers up in arms. However, substantial growth like this creates great opportunity for those who plan for it. And our guest today, the Eastlake Development Company, was founded on the belief that well-planned growth creates a higher standard of living. Outside Chula Vista in San Diego County is a master-planned community called Eastlake. We'll discover the innovative processes put in place to make Eastlake one of the most watched developments in the country and discover how management worked in harmony with their various constituents. Now we meet the principals behind it. David B. Kuhn, Jr., CEO, and Robert L. Santos, President of Eastlake Development Company, our guests today on American Spotlight.
Master plan communities have been called the saving grace of development in this country because of the long-range view they take of growth. Eastlake Development Company had that long look in mind in 1979 when they began the process of converting several thousand acres of desolate San Diego County into the community called Eastlake.
Just southeast of San Diego, California, off Interstate 805, the city of Chula Vista welcomes vacationers and business travelers alike. Chula Vista, a Spanish term for beautiful view, is a growing community in San Diego County and the home of Eastlake. Eastlake is one of the largest master plan communities in Southern California, comprising over 3,200 acres, almost 9,000 dwellings, and when completed, home to almost 22,000 Californians. The Eastlake Master Plan calls for a wide range of housing types, commercial, industrial, and office uses, as well as recreational facilities that include parks, lakes, and trails. The master plan includes the multi-million-dollar Eastlake High School. Already, Eastlake Elementary School exists to serve the growing numbers of young families moving here. But how the master plan moves from paper and poster board to three-dimensional reality is a fascinating process, and one that begins here at the headquarters of Eastlake Development Company.
Today we need to reach consensus on the thematic treatment for our next neighborhood.
When developing a master plan community, the key word is plan. Planning is a constant process involving logistical, visionary, and legal viewpoints. Constant checks and rechecks take place, review and revision, keeping in mind the political, economic, and social ramifications of each move. Kent Aden, Vice President for Development, talks about the challenges inherent when developing a community like Eastlake, a process that will span over a 20-year period.
There's a little bit of crystal ball involved with that, particularly when it comes to the marketplace. But we try and allow ourselves the flexibility into the plan to accommodate future changes. And that's, I think, where the real challenge comes, particularly with the political scenario as well. And that's that we need to get a certain amount of entitlements locked into place in order to give us the financial security to proceed with the project. On the other hand, you don't want to give up that flexibility to respond to the market and the needs of the residents in the future.
That's where the different surfaces in the stucco come together.
All parties directly affecting Eastlake's plans have a forum for their voice, like this design review committee meeting. This group is comprised of Eastlake employees who are homeowners, architects, homeowner association board members, and Eastlake management who constantly fine-tune the design criteria. Controller Sandy Mayer.
We look at the plans, we definitely make changes and make comments. We'll say we need more difference in color, or we don't like this type of fencing, it doesn't fit with the design criteria. We'll send it back to the builder with a list of comments and changes that need to be made. Maybe we'll say we'd like more variation in the backs of the homes because you can see them from the golf course. that kind of thing.
And you're really that particular about every little detail, aren't you?
Yes, we are. We're very particular.
Eastlake industrial resident and president of Creaser Price Insurance and Real Estate, Fred Hahn.
We have invested a lot of money in our facility here, and we're proud of what we've done. We think it projects a very professional image, and so we're concerned that the surroundings maintain that same image. The Design Review Committee, by setting high standards, newcomers coming in have to abide by these standards, and it makes for an atmosphere that's conducive to good business for all of us.
Eastlake homeowner Fran O'Meara.
The Eastlake Development Company helps to further this with keeping in touch with the homeowners, asking for their input, such as when the high school was being designed. They wanted to know, what does the community want to have in the high school? How is it going to be an integral part of what we are going to have here? And so I feel that they have really gotten themselves involved in the community here. They're very sensitive to the needs of what we would like to have.
Chula Vista City Manager John Goss.
Well, in my opinion, I think it's shown the people within the community what a planned community is all about, how growth can be controlled. Although the people in our community, I think, have had a very positive perspective or view of our city. Outside of our city, though, that's not always been the case. A lot of negative views have been pinpointed at our community, and what Eastlake has done is given our community, I think, a more positive perspective outside of our boundaries out in the county and even throughout the state.
In addition to all its features, Eastlake will be home to the first ever warm weather training facility for the U.S. Olympic team. This center will be unique in the world as it is the only Olympic training facility ever designed from the ground up. We'll discover more about it in our next report.
We welcome again Dave Kuhn, CEO, and Bob Santos, President of Eastlake Development Company. Welcome, gentlemen. Dave, let's begin by defining first a master planned community. What is that?
Well, master planned community is a much used term and an often misused term. Maybe it'd be easier to start off by saying what it isn't. It's not a new town like Irvine is in California, or Reston, Virginia, or Columbia, Maryland. And it's not, on the other hand, simply a residential development with a few different products and a pool and a cabana, which sometimes is referred to that. We think it's hundreds or thousands of acres that is an integral part of an adjoining city or county, and is in a certain degree self-contained. What I mean by that, it should be a place where people can live, shop, work, and play. Really have a sense of identity, a neighborhood that they can call home.
Bob, what are some of the challenges inherent in planning for this type of a community?
Well, Jackie, it's really important you understand, first of all, that in California you may own the property, but you don't necessarily control the destiny of that property. Historically, and maybe more traditionally, a property owner or developer would go to a public agency and they'd put a plan on the wall and say, this is what I want to do, maybe asking for more than they really wanted, expecting to be chopped down to something that hopefully they could live with. We've taken a different approach. We take the approach that we have a blank palette, a piece of property that we need to work together to paint this picture, that's this ultimate vision. So we go out and we'll work with the local constituents and citizens in the area and public agencies and so forth, try to identify the needs and wants of all the various players, their concerns, and most importantly perhaps the mutual goals that we can try to work for. With that in hand, you can do a consensus plan, which is really our goal, a plan that can withstand the test of time, that for a project like Eastlake, which is a 2-decade project, that will live and be flexible enough to adapt to changing times.
It certainly worked for you, Bob. Is it a little bit like opening a can of worms in some ways?
It could be perceived that way. We go into it with a very positive attitude. The idea is that we really want their input. We want the input. We want to be effective listeners. We want to incorporate what we're thinking, we're hearing into a plan. And then we want the people who we're talking to be the jury to see whether we were heard correctly. Hopefully we have.
In terms of time, how quicker might you get approval then versus the traditional approach?
Well, interestingly enough, it not necessarily is quicker to do it this way. In fact, it's more of a patient approach. It might be quicker to throw a plan on the wall and get what you can. We might take a little longer, but the idea is that when we end up with a plan that has a broad base of support, that people really want now to implement, because it's their plan as well as our plan. So it'll withstand the test of time, as I said earlier.
Of course, we did receive, after going through that long process of planning, approval in one meeting one night. It was unanimous. So because we had incorporated everybody's input from the beginning.
Dave, what about the environmentalists? How important is it for you to work in harmony with them?
Well, it's very important, but I guess I'd like to start off by saying we don't consider ourselves to be in opposition to the environmentalists or the environment. It may sound a little pretentious, but we consider ourselves environmentalists, whether it's water reclamation or community composting or recycling. We think we've set an example for all other developments and other developers that we're very proud of.
I think there are those who take a skeptical view and suggest that developers are reaping big rewards at the expense of the environment. How do you respond to that?
Well, you know, I think there's kind of a stereotypical view of a developer as being somebody who's at odds with the environment. We don't believe that's the case nowadays, and certainly not in our case. We think that we are environmentalists, and we think that what we can do with the project actually will enhance it as an environmental asset, enhance the quality of life of people living there and so forth and so on. So really, actually, our employees' philosophy is that we're part of the solution. We want to enhance the environment. We have programs in effect right now, such as water reclamation programs. We spend millions of dollars on water reclamation facilities to ensure that there's a judicious use of domestic water and so forth. This is not inexpensive. We also have programs such as recycling programs in place, composting, community composting facilities, a traffic management association, a lot of different things that are not mandated by public agencies, but we feel are important. They're good business.
All right, we'll talk a little bit more about this a little later on. Right now, we take a closer look at Eastlake. Here's Dave.
When creating developments like Eastlake, assembling a top-notch team of experts to fill the various roles cannot be overemphasized. We return now to Southern California to watch the various team members put their expertise to work at Eastlake.
To fully appreciate the magnitude of the Eastlake development, it's important to understand how the plan is laid out. Gary Sintai details the master plan at Eastlake.
What we're looking at here is an overall illustrative plan for Eastlake, which is a 3,000-acre planned community. This community will be developed over time in phases. The first phase, which has been completed, was 3 neighborhoods: Eastlake Hills, Eastlake Shores, and a business neighborhood, which was the business center and a village center. The second phase, which is under construction right now, is Eastlake Greens, and the central focus of that neighborhood is going to be a golf course. Adjacent to Eastlake Greens is an activity center with the community support facilities, high school, community park, commercial. In the third phase of the project, third major phase of the project, will be the neighborhoods of Eastlake Trails, Eastlake Vistas, and Eastlake Woods. Also, the business center will be expanded to complete an overall business park. A primary component, which is under construction now, but physically part of the third phase, is a major Olympic training facility just south of Eastlake Vistas. Both Eastlake Vistas and the Olympic Training Center overlook a major reservoir in San Diego County.
One of the ways Eastlake Development Company creates a sense of security about the plan is through its strict design criteria. Each builder is provided with an extensive set of guidelines that he must adhere to when building at Eastlake. Eastlake Development Company management has the loudest voice when determining the architectural viability of each home built. Builder Bill Davidson of Davidson Homes talks about Eastlake's proactive approach with its builders.
As a merchant builder, our product is enhanced by the overall community, and that's parks, that's schools, new roads, libraries, and Eastlake brings all that to the table, so it's a great value for our buyers.
Development Chief Kent Aden says there are other advantages to the builder.
He's buying into a total community and a master plan, much as a homeowner is. He knows what's going to be around him. He has all the benefits of the community. Furthermore, when we design the project up front, we set up various market segments. Each of those market segments demands a different type of housing. So when we go into the project, we set up the housing in a stair-step fashion, different sizes and different prices, and each builder buys into a certain price and size of home. So when he's marketing, he's going after a specific market segment. He knows that the guy next door has his project targeted to a different market segment. So in a sense, he's given a little bit of a protected marketing area, although he's completely free to eventually set his prices.
In a master plan community, you might have 4 or 5 builders that are be building in certain market segments, market niches. And so Eastlake, as the master plan developer, will try to find builders that will that'll stay very consistent in each market niche. There is a consistency, there'll be a thread of continuity that will run through the architecture of the whole project, and each of us builders have been brought together with Eastlake management to fine line those details, and I think you can see by the finished product it's working well.
In 1989, Eastlake began development of its third residential neighborhood, Eastlake Greens. Eastlake Greens will feature a championship caliber golf course and a country club living environment. There are 12 different product styles offered, from single-family homes to condominiums and apartments. Eastlake Development Company applied for and received permission to use reclaimed water in the golf course's irrigation system. Bob Snyder, Eastlake's environmental expert, says it's just one of the ways Eastlake has responded to its responsibility to the environment.
Well, we've also brought reclaimed water to all our community parks, all the common area landscaping. It's a substantial amount of irrigation. We've developed a water conservation program to use the valuable domestic water as efficiently as possible. We've reduced consumption about 33% over what an average home in California would use. We're building houses and other facilities here. They're going to be here for 30, 40, 50 years, and it would be irresponsible not to use the latest technology and build the best possible product we can that's the most responsible conservation effort we could possibly put into it.
California's relationship with water is a precious balance between need and conservation. Eastlake has adopted tough, self-imposed water conservation requirements for builders and homeowners alike. Water District spokesman Keith Lewinger describes the importance of this.
We have a scarce supply of water. Right now it's especially scarce since California's in its 5th year of drought. And so when the people move into this community, they know from the get-go that they've already got the devices in their homes and in their community to help them save water.
One of the biggest controversies surrounding the Eastlake development was how much more overcrowded Chula Vista schools would become now that Eastlake families would be added to the rolls. The master plan had taken this into account when it reserved 50 acres to build one of the most modern high schools ever erected, Eastlake High School. When this school is fully functional, it will be one of the first California high schools ever built utilizing a special tax district created specifically to fund Eastlake schools. Homeowner John Pierce was Eastlake's first ever resident.
Well, I was confused and didn't quite understand exactly what they were trying to tell me as far as I'm going to be paying more money to live here, more taxes than somebody else that lives in the same city.
Eastlake resident Fran O'Meara says some homeowners felt the tax assessment was unfair until they understood its purpose.
A community facility district is money that is to go into that particular community. It can be used to build hospitals, it can be used to build a library, it can be used to build schools. In our particular situation, it is for schools, for our children, that our state does not have the money to build at this point in time. And I personally think it's just very, very important that our children today have good education, a good building to go and have that education in, the proper environment around them.
I now understand that it was a necessity to bring about, these facilities where maybe there wasn't another way of bringing it.
As part of Eastlake's master plan, almost 50% of the land in the development will be designated as non-income producing land. Over 400 acres have been designated as open space for park and recreation facilities. Each of the 8 neighborhoods have a distinct neighborhood center with smaller satellite parks built around family areas. The Eastlake Industrial Park, which houses large Fortune 500 company facilities, has in it a 7-acre employee recreational park and fitness center with sports areas, restroom, and locker facilities. But the shining jewel in this development will be the creation of the first warm weather Olympic training center built in the United States. The ARCO Training Center will house 300 athletes vying for the opportunity to join the U.S. Olympic team. And one Olympian who would have appreciated a facility like this is former Olympic decathlete and member of the USOC fundraising team, Bill Toomey. Bill, why is this such an important project for the USOC?
Well, the athletes of today are highly competitive, obviously, and the records keep being broken. We need to send a signal out, a clear signal that there is opportunity and that there is a place where they can get the very best coaching. And the ARCO Training Center which is provided by Eastlake, is going to be the very best. So you're talking about a huge inventory of 15 or more sports that will have their national teams in training. Track and field is obviously one that people are well aware of, but even archery, volleyball, things like that. Some key areas, as people will walk in, they'll see this huge visitor center, which will have a map of the United States where medallions of past winners will have representations on that map. Eastlake, along with ARCO, have, in the state of California, that troika, so to speak, have been, without them, there would be no Olympic Training Center. And Eastlake really was the first one on board, gave us credibility, gave us real estate, and gave us hope.
The U.S. Olympic Training Center design has been so successful, other Olympic committees from countries around the world are studying it as a model for future training developments. And Dave Kuhn, that is only one of the kudos that has been heaped upon the Eastlake development. You have been the recipient of numerous development awards. Why do you think it's all come together so well?
Well, that's right, Dave. We're very proud to have been selected as home of the United States Olympic Training Center. And at last count, I think we've received some 23 local, regional, state, and national awards for planning and exemplary development.
Amazing.
I think it's really the result of a team effort, a team composed of our own very capable staff and what I'll call a world-class group of consultants and the staff and elected officials of the city of Chula Vista. Many of us in the company actually got our start some 20 years ago working at the Irvine Company. Bob and I both started there. When I left in 1978, I was able to pick and choose what I considered the best and the brightest of the people I worked with to come with me. We've all the people in the company have a wealth of experience in community development. We're able to call on that and really employ the very best of the previous projects we worked on. And since we started Eastlake from the ground up, and it was vacant land, put those into the community plan and obviously discard those that didn't work.
So it was important to have that sort of breadth of experience to bring to this project to be as successful as you are.
Yes, it is.
Bob, it seems that there's a very great emphasis on community in the plan, and we heard in that last story nearly 50% non-income producing lands. You know, it seems to me you could take some of those parks and recreation areas and just build homes. What's your feeling behind that?
Well, we put great emphasis in what we call community development. We are community developers, and all of our research has shown that the people who want to move into our projects and live in our projects appreciate the amenities that enhance their lifestyle. And that's really what we're selling as a company, is that lifestyle community. And so we do a lot of demographic research and market research, and we do a lot of surveying of our current residents to find out what really they want in the future phases of our development, what do they like, what they don't like, and so forth, and try to feed that back into our mix. So what we're trying to do is really we're trying to come up with a plan that meets the needs of the people and not necessarily try to fit people into a predetermined plan.
Right, and part of that, Dave, has been that your development appeals not just to one income-producing group, but rather there's quite a variety there in terms of housing.
Yes, so we're attempting to sell simultaneously to a very broad range of the market spectrum in income and in desires. We are at the same time we're trying to market 22 different housing products, and in order to do that we do voluminous market research and kind of break it down into what we call consumer segmentation. So we'll have plans that are developed for young couples, for singles. We'll have plans for what we call empty nesters, people who've had their children move out, and even plans designed for never nested couples who for one reason or another, choice or otherwise, have never had children. And that takes a lot of planning and very specific market research, and our attempt is to have a home really for everyone from all income spectrums.
I would think that's a tremendous marketing challenge.
But you also, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bob.
Just want to add one point. We talked earlier about all the awards we've won, the kudos and so forth. We're very proud of those, but really the ultimate success of our project is measured at the point of sale to the consumer, the home buyer. And we're very much proud of the fact that our projects have all been successful. We'll have 7 different projects, housing developments, merchandising simultaneously, and they'll all be successful uniformly. And I think that's a real tribute to the research that's gone into that.
Our concept is to give our builders a protected market niche, so they're not really competing with the other builders. Everyone has a certain product that they're building, and so they're complementary as opposed to competitive with one another in our community.
You know, it seems to me that this unusual way you've gone about this master plan in terms of arriving at a consensus of all the various constituents must have been a trying experience. Would you do it again as developers?
Absolutely. It's essential to have that consensus to really have a long-term plan that you're willing to make an investment in. Would we do it again? I don't know if there's another way to do it. That's the only way to do it that we know that's successful. What's really important to us is that we develop this concept of a we plan. It's our plan. It's a group plan that we can move forward with together, shoulder to shoulder, so to speak. And it's really important that in that context, there's a buy-in early from all the various groups, and we'll work, spend a lot of time with various constituent groups, grassroots groups, and so forth. And if it all comes together, and hopefully it will, we'll get to a public hearing where the decisions are being made by the public elected officials, and we'll have a support group there that will make it easy for the elected body to say yes. That's really what we're trying to do. Case in point, with Eastlake, our first phase, we spent literally years to get to the first public hearing to get our approvals, and we were able to follow to the podium, if you will, groups such as the local Chamber of Commerce and the local chapter of the Sierra Club supporting the project and making our application to the public agency. Made it easy for them to say yes, and they approved that project that one night.
Dave, very briefly, your advice to other developers.
It would be really to create a partnership, not just a partnership with your financial partner, but with your employees and your staff, and with the local jurisdiction you're dealing with, and make solutions, win-win solutions for everyone. A small piece of a large pie is a lot better than a 100% of no pie at all.
Great. Congratulations on your great success. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for joining us. For Dave Saint, I'm Jackie Bishop. Goodbye.
Coming up on the next American Spotlight.
Our turnout has been successful, but is it over? It's never over.
Spontex took it over and said we're going big, great guns with it.
The managers just gets involved with us, and we feel like they care more about it.
We're doing better today than we did many years ago.
Next time on American Spotlight.
Tomorrow morning at 7 Eastern on CNBC.